Everyone. Hello, hello. Cynthia here. My sincere apologies for the delay in starting this session. We had some major technical difficulties. Not ideal, of course, but yes, we made it. We're here. Hello. Great to see everyone in the chat. So happy that you are here for the introduction session to a new series that I'm hosting called Blueprints for Belonging: Conversations on Creating Intentional Communities. Yes. So today I'm going to be sharing a little bit about who I am, why I'm doing this series, what you can expect to learn about it. I'll be introducing some of our first speakers and also sharing ways that you can get more out of these sessions and learn about resources that can support you on your own community journey. Oh, great. I love seeing what folks are putting into the chat about what they're hoping to learn about. I see Ida here. I want to live in a small community filled with nature and near services, with neighbors who care about others and are willing to watch out for one another. Ah, so beautiful. I love it. Great. So let me queue up my presentation here, and we can start getting into what you can expect to learn from this series. So, for those of you just tuning in, once again, this is the introduction session for the Blueprints for Belonging. And my name is Cynthia, and I will be the host of this series, which is going to be a monthly event taking place on the second Tuesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So mark your calendars. Get ready to be there on the second Tuesday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern for a unique conversation with myself and a different expert, founder of a community consultant, someone who can really speak to this process of creating intentional communities. And hopefully you'll get some insights and guidance to support you in potentially finding a community to join or starting a new community. All right, so we are hosting this event on StreamYard. So many of you, if you've registered to join this event, you are able to ask your questions directly via the chat box, and I can see those questions. And you'll also get this recording of the event after it is over. In addition, though, we're also live streaming to many different platforms. So hello to everyone watching on Facebook or YouTube. Great to have you here with us as well. For those of you on StreamYard, I really encourage you to use the comments thread to communicate with me, ask your questions, and we'll be using this platform for all of the events and the interviews in the series. So I really want it to be engaging, not just a dry interview of me asking the presenter questions, but also hearing from you what your questions are and making space for that during the conversation. So that said, if you could all find that chat box now, if you haven't already, and I would love if you could introduce yourself, if you could let me know where you are calling in from. If you live already in an intentional community, let us know which one. And also, what do you hope to learn or get out of this session today, but more broadly, this whole series, the whole Blueprints for Belonging series? What has you feeling inspired? What do you want to learn about? What are your curiosities that you are holding? So go ahead and do that. And Karuna, you are actually already typing in the comments. So I can see your comments asking about where the comments are. So you have found it already. Great. And Charlene, no one else can see your chat. Only I can see those and other people who have registered for the event. So your chats won't be visible on any of the other social media platforms. Good. Donna is curious about who are communities that are looking for members. Okay, that's great. And I saw a lot of introductions earlier while I was having my technical difficulties, looking for more ways of belonging and sharing. looking for like-minded people. Beautiful. Lots of people from all over the Pacific Northwest, California, Blue Ridge Mountains, Ohio, all over the states. That's fantastic. Great. Okay. Good, good, good. Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you. And feel free to keep typing in there if you have more to share about your introduction. While you're doing that, I'm going to introduce myself just a little bit more. So, briefly, my journey into intentional community has been a very early one, I would say. I did not grow up in an intentional community, but at a young age, I was really attracted to ways of living that were different than the more consumeristic mainstream culture that I grew up in the suburbs outside of Boston. And while I was still in high school, and then certainly during university, I took off on a lot of travel adventures during the summer. And then when I was in college, I actually graduated from a low residency school with a degree in sustainability. And this low residency model enabled me to be pursuing my degree, but also traveling the world. And I really went for it, exploring all kinds of interesting intentional communities, permaculture projects, farms, ecological centers, really diving deep into ways to create more regenerative ways of life. I felt like I had a lot of privilege growing up and really had this weight on my shoulder, wanting to give back and serve. And what I learned through this journey is that these communities were serving me in tremendous ways in terms of my personal growth and development. To date, I have gotten to work with a ton of great organizations that are really at the forefront of growing this movement of intentional communities, including, of course, the Foundation for Intentional Community, which is one of the partners for this event and this Blueprints for Belonging series. And so I'll be talking more about FIC and them as an organization, but just giving you a snapshot of some of the other groups that I've been a part of, including the Global Eco Village Network and EcoLease in Europe, New Mundo, a lot of great groups that are looking at ways not only to uplift individual communities, but see this as a network of many communities working towards envisioning new ways of living as groups on our planet. So to date, I've visited over 200 intentional communities across 22 countries and all over the US. And through so many travels, visiting different communities, I, of course, started to want to help others on their own journey to get connected with this network and have started to become known as the community matchmaker. So somebody who specifically helps individuals find communities to join that are a good fit for them. And to date, have gone to work with well over 200, probably close to 300 clients at this point, helping them find communities that are a fit for their values and their lifestyles and their interests. And I continue to travel, even though I'm pretty stationary these days, I have to say, but I'm continuing to travel and support others in traveling through my company called Eco Village Tours. And you can learn more about that at ecovillagetours.com. It's not the focus of today's talk, but I want to throw it out there that we have just announced several tours for the summer months, visiting communities in Costa Rica and Slovenia. So those tours are now open for registration if you're curious about getting some support to actually go and visit these communities within a small group. So there's that. And I'll also share that I am calling from Vermont, where I live myself in an intentional community. We're a small eco-village called Headwaters. It's because we're situated above the headwaters of a major river system running through our state. And this is our beautiful gardens, what it looks like in the summer. And this photo in the corner is more like what it's looking like this time of year with a lot of snow on the ground. We are about 8 households on 15 acres. And one of the unique things about our community is that everyone who lives here has built their own home. So I've also been still in the process, the last 4 years of building my house within this community where I live. So it really feels just this beautiful alignment of where I live, how I live, the work that I'm doing. And I'm just thrilled to be able to share that with you through this new platform of this new Blueprints for Belonging series. And here's some more photos of our community. You can see our big garden. We grow nearly all of our vegetables, certainly in the summer months, and then we put up a big supply of root vegetables and squashes and such for the winter months. So our community has a strong focus on sustainability and growing food, and also creating a good environment for the many kids who live in this community and also in the surrounding neighborhood. And now we get into the main event. So I want to share with you about the Blueprints for Belonging series. And I have a little kid in here. I don't know if you can hear him crying, but he's been crying up a storm. So clearly he wants to be part of this event. Great. So let's get into it. If you're just tuning in, this is the intro session celebration, the beginning of the Blueprints for Belonging series, conversations on creating intentional communities, where each month I'll be sitting down with a different expert in this field of community building to learn how we do it, how we create more intentional communities. And this event will be taking place on the second Tuesday of each month at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, so to share a little bit more about this event and the model that we're working with. This event is a partnership between the Foundation for Intentional Community and my organization, Community Finders. So I'm going to share briefly about FIC and about Community Finders so you can understand a little bit more how this series came to be. All right. So you may know, and some of you may have watched already, some of our virtual tour of intentional community events, which is a series that we've been doing for over a year now, I think close to 2 years. And that takes place on the first Thursday of every month. So we're doing this new series on the second Tuesday, but we have an event that's been going on the first Thursday of every month. And that event is where we actually interview 3 different intentional communities, with real diversity each month. We get an interview from the community, an overview of what it's about, and then there's space for live Q&A. And I've really enjoyed doing these series. It's available on YouTube, so you can go back through YouTube and see all of these interviews with all of these communities for many, many months. And I've enjoyed that format. And what I'm looking forward to with this new format, with the Building Belonging series, is that we're going to go a lot deeper with just one founder, with just one expert in community, to really go into the nuts and bolts and understand the process that they went through to build their community. Not only the beautiful end results and all the wonderful photos of the gardens and the buildings, but really diving into how did this community come to be. So just to let you know the landscape kind of our events here, and of course encourage you to also join that event, because I think it'll give you a nice balance of the kind of overview of what's happening in the movement, as well as diving deep with a particular founder. And that event and this event is all made possible through the Foundation for Intentional Community. It's available at no cost or through a donation if you choose to make one. And FIC has been around for decades as an organization really committed to uplifting this movement of intentional communities. They have the communities directory and bookstore, online courses, this event series, and so many other online events. So just want to give a shout out to FIC. And if you're ever feeling inspired to like, hey, I have some extra money, I want to make a contribution, this is a wonderful organization to put your dollars towards. And you can donate at ic.org/donate. And then I'll share about my organization, Community Finders. We are a newer organization, been around for almost 2 years at this point, and we're really committed to supporting people on their pathway towards community living with deeper resources and support, primarily our membership programs. So you can learn more about that at communityfinders.com. And I've already mentioned the community matchmaking work that I've been doing. So that's one of our core programs as an organization, is this one-to-one community matchmaking. But we also have 2 membership programs that are ways that people can get ongoing support in their community journey. So we have the Community Finder Circle, which is intended for those who are looking for a community to join. And then we have the Community Founder Circle, which is our brand new program that I'm going to talk more about here soon. And the Community Founder Circle is designed for people who don't want to find an existing community to join. They want to be the founder of a new intentional community. So I've been doing this community matchmaking work for a while, and it's become clear to me that although there are many communities with openings, the demand for this way of living is so strong that we really need more new communities being developed, because a lot of the existing ones are full, or they only have space when they get turnover. And meanwhile, there's so many people out there who are hungry for community living, for that intentionality and connection and regeneration. So our goal with the Community Founder Circle is really to support founders in those more early stages of development to get a community project off the ground. So if you're curious about that, the website is communityfinders.com/founders. And the Blueprints for Belonging series is going to be included in the Founder Circle program. So everyone who's a member of the Founder Circle will automatically get access to all of our Blueprints for Belonging series. You'll automatically be registered, and you'll also have the opportunity to pre-submit questions in advance, which is really nice if you can't attend one of these sessions but still want to get your questions answered from one of the interviewees. So I'm actually just gonna pop over and stop sharing my screen. Hello. And I'm gonna share it once more with a different slide. Let's see if I can do this. Here we go. Yeah, so this is actually the website for the Community Founders Circle. And once again, that URL is communityfinders.com/founders. And I want to run through with you just briefly a little bit deeper about what's available in the program, as I know this is something that many of you had questions about, and especially questions about how this event series fit in with the Founder Circle program. So I want to make sure that I clear up any confusion in that regard. So the Community Founder Circle, where visionary leaders are empowered to create thriving, intentional communities. And if you go to the webpage, you can learn all about, what's included in the program. Briefly, I'll say that one of the main features is this roadmap to community creation. It's a workbook that runs through some of the basic building blocks that we have learned about how you go from ABC to get a community up and running. We have each month a different guest expert coming onto the program. So that is indeed the Blueprints for Belonging series, where we sit down with a different expert and hear what they have to share and ask questions, and you get to pre-submit your questions as well. In addition to that, each month we're going to have a workshop with a different guest expert. So it'll be not a publicly available event, but an event that's just private for members, that's a little bit more of that workshop format, where we're going to run through exercises led by the expert, get into breakout groups, have more small group conversations, that sort of thing. Additionally, every month we'll have the mastermind session, which is going to be a facilitated mastermind with others who are in the process of creating an intentional community. So if you're familiar with the mastermind format, that's going to be a lot of peer support, helping each other troubleshoot different dilemmas that are coming up, share about where your project is at, help get that support from other people who are also creating a community to review your plans, look at your design, and ultimately let you feel like you're, not alone in this big project of creating a community, but you truly have a network of support at your back. We're also each month going to be looking at case studies. So this is where we examine existing communities and we really try to pinpoint what made that community a success. Why did that community fail? What are the strengths and the weaknesses of a particular model? We're going to be looking at foundational documents of a specific community, really kind of going deep into this more like academic study of communities and what makes them successful. Great accountability, of course, from your peer support group of fellow founders, having that network again so you don't feel alone in this big, audacious project of starting a new community. And that's the series. That's the program in a nutshell. And I do want to mention that we are kicking things off at the start of March, which is on Friday. And right now we have our early bird pricing available. So with this $99, you actually get access to 3 months of the program. So it's an amazing deal, of course, and it's only available for the first 30 members. I think right now we're at around 30 or so members. So if you're within the first wave of people joining and get in on this deal before Friday, you can lock in your first 3 months for just $99. All right, so now I'm going to hop back over and do my little screen dance here. And I'll be getting back to the presentation where I was earlier. All right, so that was the Community Founders Circle. And I'm also going to take a pause here for questions soon and see if anyone has anything. Great. Let me see. It looks like there's not so many questions. I think I'll go back to those in a minute. So let's see here. All right. So getting into the blueprints for belonging. The first episode that we're going to have, which is going to take place on March 12th. So Tuesday, March 12th. And this is going to be with Jan Martin Bang, who is somebody who I've gotten to know because we're both on the board of the International Communal Studies Association, which is an organization that helps connect academics and researchers in this field of intentional communities. So Jan is a board member and we've gotten to connect through that work. But, I started to connect with Jan and we did some traveling together in Denmark, visiting communities. And I was scratching my head. I'm like, his name is so familiar. And only later did I realize that I had actually read several of Jan's books, and he was somebody who was really influential for my own journey of learning about intentional communities. So I'll just stop sharing my screen once more just to show you some of the books that Jan has written that are on my bookshelf. They're some of my favorite titles. I'm so excited to be able to speak with Jan and have him on the program to talk about one of his books, Growing Eco Communities. So Jan is a very prolific writer and researcher and traveler of communities, but I'm finding that his work isn't as well known in the United States. It's a little more well known in Europe. So I'm really excited to bring him on so that you all can connect and learn from him. So this book, Growing Eco Communities, is one that really showcases the evolution of a community in regards to how a community starts and grows and develops. And he correlates the development of an intentional community with the life cycles that we all go through. So I'll just pull here from the book. It's broken into 3 different parts. Part 1 being youth, the pioneering phase, which is the phase that many of you who are thinking of starting a community, you're approaching this phase if you're not in it already. Part 2 is maturity and stability. And part 3 is old age. So really even thinking about a community in old age, what does that look like? And what are the unique challenges and opportunities in each of these stages of development? I find it very curious. And then another book that Jan has written that's a little bit more well-known is this one here, Eco Villages, a practical guide to sustainable communities. And this one is just so full of photos and descriptions of different eco-villages around the world, and also has been very impactful and inspiring for me. So definitely encourage you to check out Jan's books. If you want to learn more and get a taste for his writing and his research. And then, of course, we'll be getting to ask Jan a lot of questions during our conversation together. So that's going to be the first Blueprints for Belonging guest speaker, will be Jan Martin Bang. And then we have coming up in March, we have Nicole Reese. And in April, Nicole. And then in May, we're going to have Zarina Agnew. And in April and May, the 2 guest speakers are both younger women who are really at the forefront of some of the newer community development models. Nicole specifically looking at regenerative communities and communities that are very ecologically progressive, and Zarina looking at more activist-oriented communities and communities that are pushing the line in terms of creating a more equitable and just future through the work of community building. So I think it'll be a nice progression and a nice balance of starting with Jan, with his depth of experience and years and decades in this movement, kind of getting that, wisdom that comes from that perspective. And then in the spring, we'll hear from more of these innovative younger people who are looking at the next edge of intentional community living and building. So that's the lineup, and I hope you're excited for the guest speakers that we have coming up. And of course, we'll be publishing more about those events and speaker bios in the coming weeks. And now, I think with our remaining time together, I want to set some frameworks for our conversations with these guest speakers, because I want to ensure that our time with them is focused on going deep into their work and their insights. And I want to make sure that we're starting that off with a common language and framework. So I'll just briefly run through some terminology and definitions and sort of set the stage for the conversations to come. So starting with intentional community. This whole series is about building new intentional communities. So we got to define what that means. There's this wonderful definition from the Foundation for Intentional Community that an intentional community is a group of people choosing to live together or regularly share facilities on the basis of explicit common values. There are many definitions for intentional communities out there, but I like this one because it's simple and it speaks to some of the core elements that go into having an intentional community. And one being people choosing So making an intentional decision to live together or regularly share facilities on the basis of explicit common values. So one of the first things that happens when a founder, starts a community or a small group of founders get something going is they identify their set of values that's going to serve as the building block that then future members, when they join, will be agreeing to that set of values, that mission, that vision. And this is really what distinguishes an intentional community from, let's say, a retirement community, or many of the other forms of communities that we all have in our lives, but may not have that degree of intentionality because they don't have explicit common values. In addition to that, for our purposes, we're going to be really looking at residential intentional communities, so places where people are actually living together. We all know we can have online intentional communities or maybe even nomadic or traveling intentional communities. But this is a model where people are living as neighbors in small groups for the most part. Intentional communities go by many names. I like to think of it as an umbrella term that includes eco-village and co-housing, housing cooperatives, tiny house villages, and so many more different terms and names for what it is that we're striving towards, which is this more cooperative way of living. So I kind of just put this out here. You can learn a lot more about these different terms. We have a great blog article on the communityfinders.com website that actually defines each of these terms. But I want to put it out there so that you can see that even though a speaker might be coming from the world of co-housing, let's say, many of the same principles and practices are applicable for all these different terms, and it all kind of fits within the umbrella of intentional community. All right, so why intentional community? I've been talking very excitedly about it. What makes this way of life so special? Of course, we are in a loneliness crisis. We were even before COVID, but now everything is exacerbated. So having that connection, not only the connection that comes through social media and our phones and such, but having the real connection of neighbors around you who have your back and who you feel that support from, who you can work on shared projects with or get help watching the kids, or when you've had a rough day, somebody to turn to and knock on their door if you want support. That kind of connection is so valuable because as humans, as a human species, we are designed to live in small social groups. It's really what brings us a lot of health and feelings of belonging and purpose. So intentional community can really provide that, as well as shared resources. So not everyone needs to own their own lawnmower or washing machine even. There's a lot that we can share as a community. For example, my community here in Vermont, we live in a really rural area, and it was quite a challenge for some of us, like myself, who work remotely, to have stable internet connection. And we all kind of had our own hodgepodge things that we were doing in our different households. But then one of our community members recently was like, oh, well, we could just all together have one satellite on the house that's on the top of the hill that gets the best signal. And then we can all pay for that service together, greatly lowering that utility bill, and have wonderful internet connection. So that's like one small example. And I have to tell you, there's many dozens that I can think of for our community in particular. And I feel like each community kind of finds its own ways to share resources, because it's one of the big benefits of getting to live together is that you can do that. And then that creates, of course, greater resiliency. So we're more, able to recover from challenges, whether they are natural disasters or pandemics or what have you. As a group, we can really find that stability and community support of getting to look out for each other and make sure that everyone's okay. We can also get a lot more done. Sometimes it's slower, but in general, you can have a lot more when you live in community. For example, in our community, we have chickens that provide eggs for us. And it's something that I probably wouldn't be able to do just on my own because of my travel schedule. But then when I'm living in community, I just get to have my chore day, which is every Thursday. And I get to, take care of the chickens, make sure they're good, and then the rest of the week, I don't have to think about them. I just get to enjoy the eggs. So, again, just a small example, and I could think of a lot more with our gardens too and childcare, that it's just easier living together. And then, of course, experimentation. I think especially the social experimentation, group governance, decision making, conflict resolution, those are all social skills that communities get to develop and really figure out new ways of listening to each other, healing divides, finding common ground, all those things that we really need right now on a societal level. That experimentation gets to happen within the microcosm of community. And then, of course, lots of fun. So many birthday parties. Oh my gosh, so many potlucks and gatherings and events. Living in community can be a lot of fun. You can see this photo here of the summer games that we have in the community where I live. I think we're all playing wiffle ball there. So, yeah, the short of it is that we need more intentional communities. I had mentioned to you earlier that I've been doing the community matchmaking work for a while, worked with hundreds of clients at this point, and it's, of course, been really wonderful to see, somebody I've worked with, giving them their recommendations, kind of coaching them through the process, and then they ultimately find a community. But there's a lot more people who that doesn't become possible for them because there isn't a community that's available in the region where they want to live. Or if there is a community, they don't have an opening right now and they're on a waiting list. Or maybe somebody has a vision for a community that's really unique and new and something that's well worth experimenting to try to create. But they may be lacking then the capital and resources and other members and all of the things that go into starting a big community project. So that's the intention for the Blueprints for Belonging series and some of the other programs that I'm offering is really helping people in those early stages of developing a community get the support that they need to take it to the next step. We find, of course, that the statistics are sort of bleak. I hesitate to put an exact number to it because there aren't that many studies, like formal studies, on the failure rate of intentional communities. But we do know that it's somewhat similar to the failure rate of new startups, which is very high, especially in those early years. So I feel like if there can be a bit of an intervention, a bit more extra support and community and collaboration possible for early stage intentional community founders, that could really be a leverage point that makes the difference in terms of their success. So I'll present to you briefly the Blueprints for Belonging framework. And this is a very simplistic 5-step process, or I should say more so 5 areas, because these are not 5 linear steps, of course. There's many iterations and different parallel work happening in these areas. But essentially, what we're going to be focusing on for the Blueprints for Belonging conversations is these 5 points. So looking at creating a community, you got to have your vision and your values. That is at the core. That is, I think, the starting point, actually, if there is a starting point. And as I had mentioned, the values is what makes an intentional community an intentional community. So any founder needs to have that really explicit, written down, and there are some processes to help you do that. Legal and financial planning, that's often the biggest stumbling block for creating a new community. So, this is an area where we're going to be paying a lot of attention, bringing on experts who have a background in legalese and finances, really getting their advice for how to do this well. Then we have land and infrastructure, which, depending on what kind of community you want to create, can be a big deal. Of course, you can start an intentional community just like retrofitting an existing building. That's going to be a lower lift. But in any case, because we're talking about a residential community, it's going to be a factor that you need to consider. Building community and governance. So, as I mentioned earlier, the social aspects of governance and conflict resolution and cultural building, that's the really juicy stuff. That's the really the playground, if you will, for many of these intentional communities. And I'm excited to get into some conversations about the latest and greatest happening in that area. And then lastly is growth and outreach. And this is something that is really essential for some of you founders who are right now still flying solo. And I know there's a lot of you because I've been reading your forums when you join the Founder Circle program. And a lot of you have a vision, you maybe have some land, you maybe have some resources, but you need more people to really turn it into a community, of course. A community is not one, a community is many. So we'll talk about strategies for your membership, for recruitment, for vetting potential applicants, and seeing how to put it all together into something that reflects back to your values and your vision. So you ensure that the people who are coming into your community really are going to line up well and serve the community into the future. Yeah, and this is a beautiful photo of Alegria community, which means happiness in Spanish. So Alegria community in Costa Rica is one that we visited just recently in January with our Eco Village tour. And and these are the 5 steps for creating an intentional community. And once again, these are going to be the pieces that we'll be focusing on for the Blueprints for Belonging conversations specifically. All right. So then I think we're getting towards the end here. Oh, yes. And I'll mention the community creation roadmap workbook. So the 5 steps that I just briefly covered are gone into much greater detail in the creation roadmap. And the roadmap is, of course, part of the Community Founder Circle, just one of the benefits of joining the program. And I'll put in a plug again that the early bird discount for the Founder Circle ends on Friday. So if you want to get in on it, now's your chance. The communityfinders.com/founders. And and I hope that you'll join for the conversation with Jan that's going to happen on March 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So once again, all of the Blueprints for Belonging conversations will be happening at 2 p.m. Eastern on the second Tuesday of every month. Okay, oh my goodness, I see that we have a lot happening in the chat. I'm just gonna see here briefly if I can pull out any specific questions. And if there is something that one of you wants to pull out and put again there at the bottom of the comments, that would be really helpful for me. But yeah, a lot of conversation around ownership and community. Great. Different land agreements. Oh, Neil put in a popular solution for how folks can find each other is the ic.org classifieds. So ic.org/classifieds. And that is a great place where you can place your own ad. Let's say if you have a community that you're starting and want to let people know that it's available to join, or if you as a seeker are looking for a community, you can place an ad. Okay, beautiful. Oh, and then so many good questions about what happens when a founder owns the property, what expectations do community seekers have around ownership? Yeah, that's a really good one. We're gonna have some speakers on to talk about membership specifically. Um, I think in general, there's a variety of different approaches to how land and gets how land transitions from one single owner into a collective ownership model, and that's really what we're hoping for in this community endeavor is to ultimately make that transition here in our community. We didn't start off with collective ownership. It's something that we've worked towards with time. We actually started with just one founder who purchased the land and then did the subdivision and did all the legal frameworks to make it possible for more families to move in. And then, yeah, it's been quite the journey to transition into something that's more cooperative. And I think long term, that's what folks are expecting. Good. Okay. Oh, let's see. Bring that slide up again. Yes, here. Let me go to my slides. I guess I was moving a little too fast. Here we go. Yeah, this is the Community Founders Circle. I think this is the slide that you were referring to. And the website link is communityfinders.com/founders. And since we do have a lot of people watching right now, I think there's a lot of people that are going to that link. So that's why it might be a little slower. So sorry about that for I think it was Jonathan who said that the website is going slow right now. Oh, you want to make sure that it's communityfinders.com, not finderscircle.com. Just make sure that you have that right link, Jonathan, and I'll put it in the chat as well. Here, let me pull it up for you. There we go. Oh, and I'll put the correct. This is the link to the founders page. All right, beautiful. Yeah, and then Charlene asked, will be the cost of membership after the early bird? So after the early bird, it will be $49 a month. That'll be the monthly cost to join. And then the early bird special is $99 for 3 months. So it's quite a good deal. And then, of course, once you're in a monthly membership program, you can cancel whenever you want or take a pause. And we see that a lot with our members in our finder circle because the road to community can be long and windy, and so sometimes people want to take a little bit of a break or take a pause to focus on other things in their life and then return back to it. So that's a nice benefit of that model. Okay, beautiful. Great. Yes, Charlene, I am going back to the Exit and Build Summit again this year in Texas. Looking forward to that in May. Beautiful. Oh, I love all these comments. Good. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining. My apologies again for the late start. Won't happen in the future. We did have some unusual technical difficulties, as can happen sometimes with these wonderful technologies that allow us to connect to people all over the world, but also they are sometimes flawed. So thank you for your patience and thank you for the appreciation. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you. This is definitely a big undertaking to pull together the pieces to really support founders in creating intentional communities. It's pioneering work. Nothing like this has existed before, so I'm super excited. And your presence here today has really helped me feel that. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next Blueprints for Belonging event and all of the other wonderful programs that we have coming up. So wishing you a good rest of your day and take care, everyone. We'll see you soon. All right. Bye-bye.